keep your documents together.
Your birth certificate, your marriage certificate, your divorce decree.
Oh, yeah.
And them left that. I mean, say I must tear up the divorce decree because you might need it down the line.
Caribbean Today is meeting today with Nadine Atkinson Flowers, who is an immigration attorney practicing in the United States and in Jamaica. She also specializes in family law, criminal defense law, and estate planning. Hi, Nadine. Welcome to our program.
Thanks for having me. How are you today?
Yes, great to have you here. Wonderful. So, all right. So, let's start now. Give us a little bio. Tell us a little bit about yourself, right? Because you're not only an attorney, but you're also an author of 3 books.
That's right. I'm an immigration attorney here in the US. As an immigration attorney, I practice throughout the 50 states, but I also have immigration clients in different countries: Jamaica, Canada, Barbados, Trinidad, Nigeria, because immigration law apparently is extremely impactful. I am the author of some books. I've written 2 books in particular on the legal profession. One of them is specifically related to the Jamaican legal system. It's titled On Your Feet. It talks about the practice and procedure in the criminal courts in Jamaica. I've written another book, which is an ebook regarding US immigration, called The ABCs of US immigration. Both of them are available on Amazon. The book that I wrote about Jamaica's legal system, the parish court in particular, which is where every single criminal case in Jamaica starts, that was published by Amazon Publishers. Sorry, not Amazon Publishers, Ian Randall Publishers, but it's available on Amazon as well as Ian Randall Publishers. Ian Randall Publishers, if I say so myself, is one of the foremost Caribbean legal publishers in our area. They do excellent work. And so I was grateful that I had a book published by them. And as I said, it's also available on Amazon. I do a lot of criminal law work in Jamaica, do a lot of immigration law work here, but I'm also very passionate about access to justice. So I am always doing continuing legal education for attorneys as well, because it's extremely important that the law is accessible. Persons understand what is the law, and also what certain decisions that they make can, how those can impact them now. Future, which is extremely important for immigration law, because unfortunately, sometimes we make certain decisions and there may be negative impacts later down the line. It's always important to have good information.
Yes, and that brings me to my first question, Nadine, right? I want you to explain to us as simply and clearly as you can, right? The immigration laws and the policies regarding misdemeanor crimes and felonies as it relates to acquiring citizenship, right? There are some people who may have some misdemeanors, and because of that, they're afraid to apply for citizenship and they're hiding, and they're afraid to apply. Can you explain?
Sure. Well, I can tell you that as it stands now, for the persons who can acquire citizenship, US immigration statistics for 2023, I believe, indicated that there were almost 9 million persons in the US who qualified, as far as USCIS was concerned, to actually apply for citizenship. How many of those actually do? It's a very much smaller number, because just as you say, people might think, oh, I have an issue, I can't apply. The most loyal answer, it all depends. There are some persons who have a particular contact with the criminal law system. So for example, somebody who might have had a DUI, convictions related to drugs, those kinds of convictions, they are quite possibly going to be ineligible for citizenship. Every
Ooh.
case depends on its specific facts. I must say that. But having said that, it's important for you, if you're contemplating citizenship, to look at whatever issue you had with the criminal law. Consult a criminal law attorney, but also consult an immigration attorney. But when you're doing that, you must be armed with whatever documentation you had when your particular case happened, because it's the documents that's going to really decide whether or not you should apply for your citizenship. If, let's say, for example, you have no issues at all, you've come to the United States as a green card holder, you got your green card, and you can now apply, I urge persons to go ahead and do so. If you have no issues, go ahead and apply. If you have an issue, and it's not just only criminal law issues that might be of negative impact. There are also other issues. So it's also very important to be frank with the attorney if you're speaking to one, so that it can be clear what your path should be or not be.
Okay. Well, felonies definitely are not eligible to apply, but misdemeanors now, is a DUI considered a misdemeanor?
It can be, but the
Okay.
important thing for citizenship is that they do something called they're looking for persons with good moral character.
Right.
If you don't have good moral character for the past 5 years, that's going to be an issue. So if I had a DUI within the last 5 years, that's an issue. If I had a DUI 1974, that's almost 50 years ago. So I have changed in that time frame. I have not had any problems since then. I've lived the life of an upstanding citizen. But you would still have to provide USCIS with the documents from that 1974 DUI, misdemeanor, whatever it was. USCIS is document driven. Just go in there and say, I'm Nadine, I had a conviction for DUI in 1974. I've not done anything since then. Can I please get my citizenship? That's not enough.
Provide documentation.
You absolutely have to.
Now, the next passionate issue, right, is the laws concerning parents or green card holders and U.S. citizens applying for their children, right? Now, can you tell us what are the pertinent details that they need to know, that parents need to know in applying for their children? And we're just thinking about children now, not spouses.
Sure. If you came to the States and you became a resident or a U.S. citizen, whichever it is, because remember, people come to the States in various capacities. So people come by work, work visas, employment-based green cards, whatever it is. One of the main things is that your children, in order to become a green card holder, they must, fulfill certain categories. So I'm gonna just maybe do two. Let's say it's adoption. The adoption laws of the particular country that you're getting a child from is important, but even more significant will be the immigration related adoption laws of the United States. So you have to make sure that that is done properly. A lot of Caribbean people tend to adopt from our home countries, and they might think, oh, I've adopted Nadine from Jamaica, Barbados, wherever, and I can now just bring her to the US. No, there are immigration laws that are important for that. If you have a child in Jamaica and you are a US citizen, then the child gets US citizenship, but only under specific circumstances. One of those specific circumstances must be that you obviously are a US citizen, but also you must have that physical and legal custody of the child. That's extremely important. So if the child is living
physical and legal custody.
Yes. If the child is living here in the States, the child has to be a lawful permanent resident for that status to be conferred on the child. There is a little,
Lawful permanent resident, that's a
yes,
green card holder though.
yes, the green card
Okay.
holder, or the citizenship. There's a little disconnect that people sometimes have as to when a child can get citizenship versus when the child can become naturalized. If I am a US citizen and I have a child who's living with me, who's a green card holder, and that child is under 18, once I become a citizen, that child basically automatically becomes a citizen. So I can get what is called a certificate of citizenship for that child.
Okay.
Now, having got that certificate of citizenship for that child can now proceed to get a US passport. Yes. But if I have a child who's over 18 and I become a citizen, that child has to get their own citizenship, basically, by naturalization.
Okay.
And they get what is called a certificate of naturalization. So there is a difference, and it can have an impact later on certain benefits that the child
gets. Yeah, okay. All right. Now, what does the term asylum mean, right? And how does it relate to those who have entered the country through the border or those who entered without inspection? I'm like some clarification on that.
Asylum essentially is a concept that means you are seeking in this particular country the protection of the country from persecution that have happened or persecution that you fear might happen. It's a concept in international law, and all of the countries who have signed those protections have basically agreed that should someone approach the country's borders to say, I have been persecuted in my home country, or I fear being persecuted in my home country, I am seeking your protection based on these grounds. The grounds are political, religious, if you are a member of a particular social group, for example, persons who are members of the LGBTQ community, persons who may be related to certain specific religious groups. They can also seek the protection of law, political persecution. So let's say you belong to country X, but you are the opposition leader, or you are, excuse me, you are someone in opposition to the party in power, and you have been speaking out passionately about the issues that are taking place, corruption, whatever it is. You can approach another country for its protection. And so persons will come to the borders, as some people have done, and present themselves to the authorities, whether it's the land border or the seaport borders, such as, let's say, I came to Miami and I said, I am Nadine, I'm seeking asylum here in the US because I am from country so, where I am in opposition to what is happening there politically. And they will give us, give me the necessary paperwork to complete and assess it as to whether or not I might have a viable asylum claim. So that's the short version.
But okay, but if they come through the border, is there a difference with coming through the border, right? As an asylum seeker or the enter without inspection?
Yes.
Is there a difference?
There is an absolute difference. And that is such a great question because a lot of persons don't understand that. If you come to the border seeking asylum, you present yourself to the officers, the Customs and Border Patrol officers there. And you say to them, I am seeking asylum because these things have happened in my country where I've been persecuted, or I fear that these things might happen. And so you are put into the system, as it were, and you get documentation to go to immigration court to tell your story to the judge, or you, excuse me, they might give you paperwork to complete whereby you would actually go and see an immigration officer at USCIS. Enter without inspection now means that I've come and I've just snuck in I have not seen any US immigration authority. That means none, I'm not in the system. That's the short version. If you've entered with inspection, you're not in the system.
No, the islands, right? The Caribbean islands. I don't think any of those islands, any individuals from that islands would come over, seeking asylum on any of those conditions you mentioned, right?
You'd be
Not
surprised. You'd be surprised. We have persons who have come from several of our islands, several of our sister islands who've come here and sought asylum on religious grounds of political persecution in their home countries, persons who have said, well, I'm a member of a particular social group, and so I'm seeking the asylum protection of the United States. I must say, though, asylum is extremely difficult, pardon me, to prove. Because just as I said at the top of our program, you have to provide the documents. So it's all well and good to be able to say, boy, I want to seek some asylum in the US, because life rough in a jam down. And I head over. When I get here and I say to the officers at the border, I'm seeking asylum on this ground or that ground, and I write on that paper, it's the beginning of my interaction with the American government. I write on that paper, this is what is happening to me. I'm expected to present evidence about that. I might not have the evidence right now, and so they'll give you, obviously, you get time to prepare your information and to produce it. But when you are going to produce it, it cannot be inconsistent. So I can't be saying in 2020 when I came here that, well, I was a member of a religious group and we were hated, and everywhere we went, people stoned us and that kind of thing. And now, 10 years later, I'm saying, I was the head of the party X and these things were happening to me. That kind of gross and grave inconsistency is going to let the immigration system look upon you and say, something right or so. I understand. 10 years ago, you said X. Now you're saying Y. Well, go on. So that's something that we must recognize. And you have to have the documents to prove it. You must have the documents to prove it.
Okay. Well, now, can we touch upon the subject of individuals, right, who marry for green card, green card holders and U.S. citizens to obtain citizenship status? They're like these green card seekers. That what are the rules surrounding that dynamic and the consequences, of that sort of marriage?
Well,
for the purpose of gaining citizenship.
If it is that you marry solely for an immigration benefit, the law says that's immigration fraud. That's marriage-based visa fraud, for which you can be both fined and or imprisoned. So, let's just get that out there. USCIS expects that if I'm getting married for the old age concept of love. And USCIS actually uses two very important words or phrases. Says, one, you are commingling your lives together. So when Nadine marries Tom, Dick, Harry, whomever, it is with the view that our lives are going to be together and entwined forever, and not solely for that green card. USCIS also expects that you're going to provide what are called the bona fides of the marriage. So it expects to see the documents showing that our lives have become intertwined. Because as I said, the law makes it illegal for you to marry someone solely for the purposes of a green card. And that has very significant consequences. If USCIS makes what is called a fraud finding, you can find yourself in a lot of hot water. And any subsequent marriage that you might have is going to always be called into question. USCIS is always going to be saying, this is your sixth marriage, in a business. Marriage number one, you said so. And we proved that it was a fraudulent marriage because, for example, one of the things that happens with the marriage-based green card, especially if the person is in America, we call that adjustment of status. USCIS does deep inquiries into those relationships. So they'll come to your house at 5 o'clock in the morning. I've had that happen to lots of clients.
Oh my goodness.
They come to the house and they say, so where did Nadine sleep? Where are her clothes? Where is this? Where is that? Where are the pictures on the wall? All of those very minute details.
Yeah.
They'll talk to the neighbors. They'll have their cameras and snap who's coming in and who's coming out.
Wow.
Because remember, marriage simply for a green card is illegal. So USCIS must do its due diligence to see what's happening.
Investigation, yeah.
My clients called to say USCIS was just here. They gave me their business card and they said, we will hear from them. That's happened on many occasions. Thankfully, all of those clients are able to prove that, you know, their marriages are real and they have got their green card. So that is always a significant issue.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you cleared that one up. Okay, now another important one is this. This year, elections is approaching and the issue of voting and the ramifications one may face if they voted in elections before applying for citizenship. Can you talk to us about that?
Very important topic, especially as you say, elections are coming up, the national elections. If you vote and you are not a US citizen, that is almost 100% certain that you're never going to get citizenship. That's just put that out there.
And how are they able to vote if they're not citizens? I thought you need to provide proof.
I'm going to get into that. The only way you might be able to have that decision reversed is if you can show that there was such an egregious error on the part of USCIS or on your part that you totally did not understand. But essentially, the steps are, you come to the US in whatever status, you become a green card holder. Once you become a green card holder, a lot of things start to happen. For example, you can go, or refugee, asylum seeker, whatever it is, you can go to the DMV and you can get a state ID, you can get a driver's license, and in some instances, those actions trigger something else, and that something else that's triggered is the registration to vote process. So you'll see in your mailbox, this is your registration to vote. Complete A, B, and C and return it. No, I didn't ask them to send it to me. And I'm not thinking, because we have not, they have not listened to you. So they're not thinking, oh, only a citizen should vote. What should I do? So persons have been known to fill this form out and so registered to vote. Another thing that happens, and it happens even, I'm seeing it a lot now because elections are so close. Persons are being asked in the plazas, in the doctor's office, are you registered to vote? And I'll say, no, I'm not registered to vote. So they will register you either on paper or using their computers. And so you're in the system. But these persons are they're citizen. They're not, because that's not their job.
Is to register you,
registered. So if you have registered to vote and you have never voted, you can go, excuse me, you can have that registration revoked fairly easily. So the difference comes now with if you are registered to vote and then you actually vote, you are going to have to now throw yourself on the mercies of your because you, by the very act of voting, you're saying, I'm a citizen.
Yeah.
It's reserved, it's a privilege, it's a right that's accorded only to citizens. So we have to be extremely cautious, whether you're from the Caribbean or some other country. When you come here, if you're not a citizen, do not register, do not even
Even if they register but do not vote, it's still a problem. Okay.
so means is when you get documents, you must read them extremely carefully. And automatic triggers that I see a lot with the DMV and a lot of persons tend to fall into the trap there. You register to vote because you got something in the mail from the DMV saying you are eligible to register, and you go ahead and do so. It usually happens when people are, people apply for their various identifications. So, yeah. Bottom line, do not register if you
are. You need to have something that written on there that if you're not a U.S. citizen, don't register.
I actually plan to check to see what it does have, but the critical point is you're not a citizen, enough about voting. People see you in the streets and they say, are you registered to vote? Run to the other side of the road.
Right, okay. All right, okay. I hope our viewers are listening. And yeah.
States where persons have been now allowed to vote in local elections, don't do that either.
Jeez.
Don't do that.
No.
Election day, lock up tight in your house. Be tempted.
Yes.
That error on your part can stem you for a long time. You might have to end up fighting with USCIS for a very long time over something.
Innocent as that, yeah.
Innocent as that.
Okay, all right. So now let's talk about visas because, I didn't realize this. It took me all these years to learn that there are different kinds of categories of visas, right? Indeed. Because I was made to understand that Buju Banton qualified for a visa to come to the U.S., but it was a working visa. I read that he got a working visa, not a vacation visa, or what is it? Well, what are the categories of visas?
First of all, there are as many categories of visas as we have in the alphabet, literally.
Really?
You can get an A visa, which is for like a diplomat. So let's say, all of our high commission persons who are in New York or in Miami, Atlanta, they're here on the diplomatic visa. You can go all the way to the U visa, which is for someone who has been the victim of a crime. And that person can also get a visa to stay in the country. We can go in the middle to the P visa, which is for, there are a lot, for persons who are, for example, entertainers, artists, persons in the creative spaces.
Yeah.
I do not know what type of visa Buju got. I'm not going to tell you a lie. That's my artist.
So maybe I believe I read that. So
I do know that it's quite possible that he got what they call a work visa, and the work visas are several. For example, you could get, as I said, a P visa, which is definitely for artists or persons who are in the entertainment space. He's such a artist of international renown and repute. He's won a Grammy. He's done lots of philanthropy, all of those things. He has extraordinary ability. There's a visa that's called the O visa, where that is accorded to a very significant few persons because of the contributions that they have made. And he could certainly make a case that through his music, his cultural contribution, his music that brings awareness about the continent of Africa, about the Jamaican life, our culture, and all of those things. He could also say, well, I have been rehabilitated, I have reformed. from this person who I was so many years ago. So this is all the things he would be putting into his application. But he would also have to put, for example, things about, excuse me, his contribution and how it would help for him to be returned, come back to the States.
Right.
And he would also have to get persons in his community to say, well, he has reformed and we have seen this. And so they're of the view that he is a fit and proper person who could get back some type of visa to travel to the States. And the lesson I would say for us mere mortals in this, let's say, for example, many years ago, I had whatever issue it was, and I was deported from the US. If I wanted to come back, these are the things what we call in mitigation that we would present to the US. We wouldn't hide from it. We would, hug it up, as we say in Jamaica. You have been convicted of whatever it is. But we would want to say, that was me then. Look upon me now, different person, and hope that they would be willing to
grant you
everything and to grant, the approval for this new visa. So I have not yet heard, but I've heard the rumors that it's a work visa, but I've not, this is people's private business. And so you may not ever know exactly what it is that he got. Just like with Prince Harry, there's been that situation where people in the US have been saying they want to know exactly what type of visa he got because he made certain admissions about drugs and so on. And people are saying, how can you get a visa if you've been talking about it? Yes, but history is your business. Nobody can get that information. So, as I said, the takeaway I would offer to our Caribbean people and anybody listening to the show is that if you have an issue, I would suggest that you prepare properly. And when you go to your interview, you don't resile from that which you have been convicted of, but you show how you have become rehabilitated and how a new grant, new visa would be beneficial.
What is the most common visas that Jamaicans usually apply for when they're coming over here?
Visitors, that's
visitors visa. Okay.
B1, B2. So you come
and you're allowed to stay how long? And how long are you allowed to stay on that?
The law allows you 6 months, but I always don't stay for 6 months because you don't want an allegation that you were working, because the B2 visitors visa has a stipulation on it that you're not allowed to work.
Okay.
Call it the Sun and Sea visa. So you come and you see what's happening in the country. You experience the sites, go to the Washington Monument, go to Abraham tomb there, you go to Martin Luther birthplace, and you go back to your yard. You don't go to the restaurant, you don't go work in your friend's shop, none of those things.
No.
Those are all breaches of the visa. So we as a people, I think we tend not to understand that that is what the B1, B2 visa is. It's a visitor's visa. Come and see what's going on in the country, and then you have to go home.
And return.
Because it's a breach to do otherwise.
Preferably before the 6 months is up.
What you need to do when you get your visitor's visa, you go on the website, it's called the I-94, and see exactly how much time they've given you. Because it's not a given that you got 6 months. So you go, you put your name, your date of birth, your passport, and it will tell you exactly how much the country.
I-94. Okay. All right. We're getting some great information. Thanks, Nadine. Going good. Okay. Now, I have a question here, right? Regarding the Vibes Cartel case, right? It's drawn so much attention due to the discrepancies, right, in the Jamaica judicial system. And now the Privy Council quashed the verdict, right, based on these discrepancies. why would they remit it to the Jamaica Court of Appeals for final disposition? Because I thought the Privy Council was the final word.
The caveat here is that this is a case that is still, excuse me, being examined in the court system. So properly, lawyers are not supposed to speak on it. So I can only speak in broad terms. So I'll say, yes, the Privy Council is our last court in terms of our jurisdiction. However, what the Privy Council has done is what they've done is remit it to the Court of Appeal in Jamaica for the Court of Appeal to decide based on submissions from the prosecution, based on submissions from the defense attorneys, whether or not this case should be set for retrial, or whether or not at that point after the Court of Appeal has heard all of what both sides have to say, if the case, excuse me, the convictions will be quashed and the sentences will be quashed, which will mean everything will go out the door. So those are the possibilities. So the court in Jamaica now must hear the prosecution's case. They will be saying, for example, we have all of our witnesses lined up right out the door back of this up, and the defense, nothing go so, nobody not there. And because the Court of Appeal is not going to be looking at any evidence. Right. They're just looking at what the prosecution has to say. We can mount a case. We can move forward. The defense will be saying the opposite, obviously. And then the Court of Appeal will probably take some time. And this is what, this is what the court does. Take some time, think about all of the arguments for and against, and make the best decision in the interest of justice as to whether or not the case should go forward. There have been other cases in the past where exactly this has happened. The Privy Council has sent it back. Prosecution, yes, we can. Or as Mr. Obama says, yes, we can. Or defense says, foolishness, them can't go on with nothing. And they move from there. If the case is back for retrial, then they'll set a date and everything goes again. If there's no retrial, then everything ends there. So as I say, we've had, this is not new. This is exactly what that the court looks at the cases and best decisions possible.
Okay. All right. Nadine, now tell us before we sign out, how can our viewers or those who might want to seek your services reach you?
Oh, sure. Well, I am online at atkinsonflowerslaw.com. I'm on Instagram at AtkinsonFlowersLaw159. I'm on LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel, Atkinson Flowers Law, where I do a lot of videos about US immigration, but also about Jamaican laws as well, how divorce impacts US immigration, how adoption, all of those things affect immigration. My phone number, 484-995-7260. And I also have my email address, info@atkinsonflowerslaw.com. I write articles on Loop as well. US immigration. So persons can also check those out, for general education purposes, because I'm convinced that if our people are knowledgeable and aware, we will make better decisions, and we will feel as if there is justice that we can all access. We may not agree, we can understand.
I agree. Yeah, we need the knowledge out there, of the immigration laws.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially.
And each time there is something happening, persons are sometimes scammed because they're told, oh, you qualify for X or you qualify for Y. So it's very important that our people are knowledgeable and aware, not because Janet get it, that don't mean Stella get it. My case different from yours.
Yeah, right.
Regardless of what people say.
Yeah,
that don't make a difference. Your case is different. There may be a very tiny thing that makes the difference between yours and my case.
Yeah.
Very important to be aware of those things.
And of course, you would agree that it's always best to check with an attorney.
I would agree. I would
Yeah.
agree.
Okay.
I would say whether or not you check with an attorney, you should at least arm yourself with some basic information. You should have your documents, or
Yeah.
you're all in a row.
Yeah.
Because documentation is crucial.
Yeah. Keep your documents together.
Your birth certificate, your marriage certificate, your divorce decree.
Oh, yeah.
And them left that. I mean, say I must tear up the divorce decree because you might need it down the line. If you have children, I just talk very generally about what the immigration forms require. If you have children, two of them, they're foreign, chat to them, call them worthless. When you get the bus, you know, but put them name on the paper. No. The law requires that you advise of all your children.
Oh, exactly.
Marriages, 3 of them fail, so you forget about those 3. When you go to immigration and they say, then Nadine, you never married already. You say, oh yes, but I never know what to like. I mean, I like him. No, must be forthright.
Yeah.
Because a fraud finding can come almost innocently. Another big one for us in the Caribbean, we have pet names.
Mm-hmm.
My friends might call me Janice, but my real name is Petrona. And on my documents, I put the pet name. And when you go to immigration, they're like, but ma'am, which one of these names?
It's your.
I see every day with clients. And it's innocent.
I know.
And children. So the lady in the district, she was on hard times. They take the baby from a 2 months old, you grow him up. Now I'm reach 17, you're gonna file for him. You can't, because you did not adopt him.
Yeah.
For process. And so the heartache is 100-fold now, because he's almost 17. It's impossible to adopt him now. But what are you gonna say? This is your child. This is your child. So there are a lot of things that we
Yeah, a lot of loopholes. There's so much. Yeah.
understand more about for our people. So I'm glad that you have this platform, and I congratulate you.
Okay, well, I appreciate you being here to give us all this information, Nadine. Thank you. Okay, yes, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Okay, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Absolutely.
All right,
Absolutely.
have a wonderful afternoon.
You too.
Bye-bye.